What's up guys, this is Eric with Legend Paint Protection Film, and today we're going to go over dialing in your slip and tack solutions. If your film grabs too fast, won't lock down, keeps lifting edges, feels impossible to reposition, your slip and tack solutions are honestly probably wrong. So today we're going to go over showing you exactly how to dial those in for the perfect mixture for your environment, your install style, and for the film that you're using. So one of the biggest issues that we see installers make is just basically copying a formula that someone else told them works for them, but not really understanding why it may or may not work in their situation. Your ideal solution is going to change depending on your temperature, your humidity, the panel shape, and even how fast you install. So instead of just giving you a one-size-fits-all approach, we're going to actually teach you how to find your perfect recipe. A slip solution does exactly what it sounds like. It allows the film to glide across the surface so that you can position it into the correct spot before locking it down. A good slip solution should allow easy repositioning, it's going to reduce aggressive grabbing, it's going to prevent stretch marks, and it's also going to help you prevent contamination while installing. So typical slip formulas that you're going to see are usually going to contain J&Js. We have Legends Pure Slip that's designed around our film specifically. 7-chin's pretty popular. A lot of guys use gel. There's a ton of things on the market that you can use. They're all kind of trying to accomplish the same goal, which is going to break the surface tension between the substrate you're installing on and the adhesive on the back of the film. This is going to allow you to reposition it, and it's also going to add lubrication between the two surfaces. So Tack solution, on the other hand, well, it's basically the opposite. It's going to remove the lubrication that is there from the slip solution, and it's going to allow the adhesive to bite so that you can lock that piece down to the panel that you're working on. So typical Tack formula is going to be a combination of RO or distilled water, sometimes with some isopropyl alcohol mixed in. You can also use hot water in certain instances, and this is what you're going to use for your edges, corners, aggressive curves, and final lockdown. So the reason why there's no one-size-fits-all universal mixture that just works is because a formula that works perfectly in 68-degree climate-controlled shop is going to be a nightmare in a hot Texas garage. So the hotter the environment, the faster the water evaporates, the more aggressive the adhesive becomes, and the stronger your slip solution needs to be. So as you can see, there's a ton of variables that are going to affect the mixture and what works well. Temperature, humidity, film tack level, panel complexity, installer speed, water hardness, even the paint itself, whether it's been paint corrected or not. All of those things can change the way the film behaves, which is why you're going to see experienced installers are constantly adjusting their mixtures and they don't just have a one-size-fits-all approach. So when starting out on your slip solution to try to figure out what's going to work well for you and your environment, you're going to want to start light. We would recommend maybe 2 to 3 pumps of J&J into a 32-ounce bottle, or if you're using Legends Pure Slip, start out with 5 milliliters to that same bottle size. That's a good starting point to see, how the film's reacting on what you're working on. If you notice that the film's grabbing super aggressively or you can't reposition it easily, if you notice that you're running out of working time, it's drying on you, or you're getting a ton of work marks, you can slowly start incrementally increasing that slip solution. I would recommend on our Pure Slip to maybe add 2 more milliliters to your solution, and then kind of incrementally go up from there and see if those solve your problems for you. And that's a good way to sort of dial in that slip solution for whatever it is you're working on that day. So you really want the film to glide smoothly across the surface. You want to be able to reposition it easily, but not feel uncontrollably loose. If you're feeling like you can't lock it down when you're trying to squeegee it in place, you're getting things like chicken skin, which is a distortion in the film that can happen when there's too much soap underneath the surface. You're noticing things like glue distortion problems with your edges, or even haze. Those are all good indicators that maybe you've gone too far with the amount of soap that you've added to your slip solution. Maybe look into that, possibly dial it back. There could be other factors involved, but that's a good place to start if you're noticing any of those issues while trying to install the film. So these ratios are going to change based on your environment. For instance, a hotter climate is going to typically require more soap, whereas a colder climate, you might want to dial that back a bit. Things like humidity, a super humid climate, you might need to add a little bit more soap. Also, paint correcting, as mentioned previously, if you paint corrected a vehicle prior, usually the film grabs pretty aggressively. You might need to up your slip solution there as well. So the indicators that we mentioned previously in the video, you're going to want to kind of read the film and basically make a determination on how to adjust your ratios based off what the film's telling you. So now that we have your slip solution dialed in, we're going to go through the same process on the tack solution. Some shops are using straight water, others are using hot water, and most of them are going to be using a water and alcohol mixture. I would say start conservatively on the amount of alcohol you put in your tack solution. Typically for a new installer, I would say put 10% of the bottle alcohol, and then 90% of the bottle is going to be distilled or RO water. If the edges still won't lock down, you can always increase that alcohol content slightly, but don't go too crazy because there are some downsides to adding too much alcohol in your Tack solution. The downsides to adding too much alcohol to your Tack solution is going to be basically damage to the adhesive. If you notice that you're getting increasing silvering issues, increased lift lines, or if you go really far, the film is turning kind of a white or milky color, basically the adhesive has been damaged enough to where it's actually not going to want to stick. So a lot of problems that we see are new installers can't get a panel to stick for some reason, and they keep bumping up the alcohol mixture in their Tack solution, and they get to the point where they're actually going backwards. It's making the film less sticky because the adhesive has now become damaged. So you want to be cautious when adding alcohol to your solutions to not go too far. So as mentioned throughout this video, the most common mistakes we typically see new installers make when they're trying to dial in these ratios, the number one is probably going to be the too much soap. A lot of new installers think the more soap you add, the easier it's going to be to work and install, which is not always the case. Too much alcohol in the Tack solution is another big one. You know, it does make it bite a little bit harder when you add more, but there is a cross threshold point where it can burn the adhesive and then makes it not stick, which is very counterintuitive to a lot of new installers. Using tap water is probably another big one we see. Tap water is extremely variable from region to region, and you're really looking for repeatability, so we recommend using distilled or RO water whenever possible. And the last one is going to be using Instagram ratios, something that they saw someone post about online. Their environment is not your environment, and there's not a one-size-fits-all solution or approach that's going to work for everyone. So now that we've gone over the basics of dialing in your slip and Tack solutions, we're going to give you a couple of pro installer tips. These are the tips and tricks that installers that have been doing this for a while wind up using. Keeping multiple slip strengths ready. Some guys will mix up different bottles, especially if they're in a new environment, and they'll just have them already ready pre-made. That way they're not having to empty bottles and refill them, and they can just basically pick up a little bit more concentrated bottle if they need it. Labeling those bottles, obviously, so that they know what's in them. So labeling them correctly, or some guys will use two different bottles so that they know which one's Tack, which one's slip. They can kind of grab it on the fly. They're not wasting time trying to figure out what's what. So that's another good tip and trick you can use. Also, using separate towels for your Tack areas. You don't really want to introduce, your slip solution back into the areas you're trying to tack. So using a separate towel or a different colored towel for when you're going to be wiping down film or wiping off edges and areas that's going to be used for your Tack solution. That's just a good small practice you can do so you're not reintroducing slip solution back into that area. Adjusting your mixes seasonally. Some people in the United States have really varied temperature swings. That's going to change, as mentioned before, your slips and Tack solutions quite a bit. So adjusting them seasonally is going to be a big deal. Obviously, a climate-controlled environment is best if possible to keep that consistent, but even still, things change quite a bit, so you might want to need to adjust those as the temperature outside changes. And then lastly, testing on a small, even scrap piece first, or a mirror is good. You don't want to jump into a gigantic large piece just to figure out that you've burned the adhesive with too much alcohol, or you have way too much slip and it's fighting you. So dial that stuff in on a small piece first. That way, if you do ruin it and need to throw it away, you're not throwing away a large piece of film. So remember, the goal isn't to memorize one magic formula. It's to understand the film, the way it behaves, and learning how to adapt to what you see the film doing. Once you master slip and Tack solutions, your installs become faster, cleaner, and way less frustrating.